It is late on a Sunday night, and the kitchen has become a temporary office. A laptop is open beside a cold mug. A phone lights up with the time. Somewhere inside an account page, a subscription is scheduled to renew at midnight. The task should take less than a minute. The customer finds the service, signs in, and opens the account. There are large buttons to upgrade, add features, change the payment method, and recommend the plan to someone else. There is no obvious button to leave, so they click Manage Plan. First, the account asks them to confirm who they are. Then it asks why they are leaving. Then it shows what they will lose. Then it offers a pause. Then a cheaper month. Then another discount. Then a chatbot. The chatbot says an agent may be able to help. The customer looks at the clock, closes the laptop, and tells themselves they will finish tomorrow. The subscription renews. Cancellation friction turns a settled decision into an unstable one. The missing button is only the visible edge. The real mechanism begins after the customer has already decided to cancel, when delay, explanation, fatigue, and hesitation are inserted between intention and action. Why can a company accept the decision to join almost instantly, but refuse to accept the decision to leave without a process? And what, exactly, is that process worth? To understand why cancel buttons keep disappearing, we have to look beyond the screen, into the language of the buttons. The order of the offers, the scripts given to agents, the metrics attached to a saved customer, and the quiet moment when a person who still wants to leave decides they no longer have the energy to do it tonight. Joining is built around momentum. The offer appears at checkout. The trial is free. The payment card is already stored. A bright button promises immediate access. The terms reassure you that cancellation is available later at any time from your account. The commercial relationship begins while desire is fresh. Leaving often begins under completely different conditions. The customer is not excited. They may have noticed an unexpected charge while waiting for a train. They may be cutting expenses after work. They may be cleaning up the accounts of a parent. They may simply have realized that a service they once used has become background noise on a bank statement. On a crowded evening commute, a man opens his phone after seeing a renewal notification. His train is approaching a tunnel. He finds Account, then Membership, then Manage Membership. A page loads slowly. It offers a new plan. The signal disappears. Nothing dramatic has happened. No one has forbidden him from cancelling. The task has simply been moved to a moment he no longer has. Some friction is legitimate. A company may need to verify identity, explain the final billing date, protect stored data, or prevent someone else from closing an account without permission. An annual contract may have real terms that must be disclosed. The question is not whether every cancellation should be one careless tap. The question is why the safeguards around exit so often exceed the safeguards around entry. Why the company needed one confirmation to begin billing, but several confirmations to stop. Why a reason is optional when buying, yet suddenly valuable when leaving. Why the interface becomes more talkative at the exact moment revenue is about to end. The cleanest comparison is not between one company and another. It is between a company's own entrance and its own exit. That comparison reveals the first layer of the maze. But the maze is rarely built from one spectacular obstacle. It is built from ordinary-looking steps that become powerful when stacked together. The first toll is discovery. The customer must locate the place where cancellation lives. It may be under settings, billing, membership, plan details, account preferences, or a separate website controlled by the platform through which the subscription was purchased. The next toll is language. The word cancel is replaced by manage, review, change, or contact support. These words are not false. They are simply broad enough to hide the destination inside a larger menu. Then comes explanation. A form asks why the customer is leaving. Price, technical problems, not enough use, missing features, other. Sometimes the answer changes the next screen. Choose price and a discount appears. Choose lack of use and a pause appears. Choose technical problems and support appears. The reason does not merely describe the exit, it can route the customer into a tailored attempt to stop it. Then comes loss. The interface brings forward everything that will disappear. Saved files, playlists, discounts, member status, progress, streaks, access, storage, history. The customer is reminded of value that was quiet during months of ordinary billing, but becomes vivid during the final clicks. A language learning app may show a long streak. A fitness service may ask whether the customer is ready to give up their routine. A cloud platform may warn that stored work could become inaccessible. A membership program may calculate benefits the customer has received, as though cancellation is a verdict on the past rather than a decision about the future. Then comes the alternate route. Pause instead. Downgrade instead. Take one discounted month. Keep limited access. Speak to someone. Return later. Each option may be useful, but each one also replaces the original task with a fresh decision. Finally, confirmation can remain strangely unclear. Cancel today. Cancels at the end of the billing period. Auto-renew turned off. Request received. Pending agent review. Confirmation email to follow. The customer may leave the process unsure whether they have ended the subscription or merely changed its state. Consider a household budget review at the end of the month. A couple sits at a dining table with 2 bank apps open. They find a streaming service, a meal planning app, cloud storage, a children's learning platform, a news subscription, and a fitness membership neither has used recently. Each charge is small enough to look survivable. Together, they matter. They begin cancelling. One service takes a minute. Another requires a password reset. A third was purchased through an app store. A fourth offers a pause. A fifth asks for a call during business hours. After 40 minutes, they have ended 2 subscriptions and written down 3 tasks for later. The system has not needed to defeat them, it has only needed to outlast the evening. This is why cancellation friction is cumulative. A hidden button matters, but so does the password reset after it, the warning after that, the offer after that, the transfer after that. No single step must be unbearable. Each step only needs to create another moment in which the customer can stop trying. That explains the architecture. It does not yet explain the emotion. Why do cancellation flows so often become most persuasive when the customer is tired, uncertain, or already worried about money? Every added step requires the customer to renew the decision. At the beginning, the question is simple. Should this subscription continue? After several screens, the questions multiply. Do I want to deal with this now? Do I have time to wait? Is the price low enough to ignore for another month? What if I need the files later? What if cancelling now creates a new problem? What if the discounted offer changes the calculation? The original decision is no longer standing alone. It is surrounded by smaller decisions, each carrying its own cost. Fatigue works quietly. It does not need to reverse preference. It only needs to make postponement feel easier than completion. Guilt works differently. Many subscriptions are attached to a version of the person the customer hoped to become. More organized, more creative, more informed, more fit, more fluent, better prepared. When the customer tries to leave, the interface can turn that aspiration back on them. You are not merely ending a payment, you are abandoning your progress, losing your tools, breaking your streak, giving up the plan. The language may be gentle, even encouraging, but it changes the emotional meaning of the button. Cancel begins to feel less like closing an account and more like admitting something about yourself. In a small flat, a freelance designer opens Adobe Creative Cloud after losing a major client. The decision is practical. Income has fallen. The monthly expenses need to fall with it. But the software is not emotionally neutral. It contains the tools the designer used to build a portfolio, deliver work, and imagine the next contract. The cancellation screen arrives at a moment when professional confidence is already damaged. Now the person is not only calculating a subscription, they are confronting what access to the software represents. The United States government's case against Adobe focused on more than symbolism. In 2024, the government alleged that Adobe obscured important information about some subscription plans, including an early termination fee connected to certain annual plans billed monthly. It also alleged that people trying to cancel encountered unnecessary steps, delays, unsolicited offers, and warnings. Those were allegations, not findings. In March 2026, the Justice Department announced that Adobe and 2 executives had agreed to a proposed order that, if entered by the court, would resolve the case. The proposal called for $75 million in civil penalties, $75 million in free services, clearer fee disclosures, and easier cancellation. The legal status matters. Allegations are not the same as findings, and a proposed order is not the same as a final judgment. But the documentary significance lies in the moment the customer encounters the fee, the warning, and the possible loss of access together. A person who had decided the standard price no longer made sense is suddenly asked to calculate an exit cost, reconsider a discounted alternative, and imagine life without tools tied to their livelihood. Hesitation has been converted into a new marketplace. The discount may be real value, the pause may genuinely help, the lower plan may be the right choice. A retention offer is not automatically abusive merely because it appears during cancellation. The pressure comes from timing and sequence. The offer arrives after the customer has expressed a decision, but before the system has carried it out. It interrupts completion with a negotiation the customer did not necessarily ask to begin. And once that negotiation exists, the company can observe what happens. Did the customer accept a pause, choose a downgrade, take the discount, abandon the flow, return later, reach confirmation, contact support? From the customer's side, these are obstacles. From the business side, they can become outcomes. That distinction changes the view of the interface. Customer service is organized around completing the customer's stated task. Retention is organized around preventing the relationship from ending. The same employee can be asked to do both. The same chatbot can appear to do both, but the goals are not identical. One asks, how do we help this person cancel? The other asks, what might keep this person from canceling? That second question can shape the flow before a human agent ever appears. Amazon Prime offers one of the clearest documented windows into what happens when an exit path becomes an operational system. In 2023, the Federal Trade Commission sued Amazon over Prime enrollment and cancellation practices. The agency alleged that some consumers were enrolled without clear consent and then faced a complex process when they tried to leave. Inside Amazon, the cancellation process had a name: Iliad. The reference was to the ancient epic built around the long Trojan War. It was an extraordinary name for an account flow because it captured exactly what the customer was experiencing. Not a button, but a journey. According to the FTC's allegations, customers first had to locate the flow. Once inside, they moved through multiple pages presenting alternatives. Continue Prime, accept a discount, turn off auto-renew, or decide not to cancel. A parent buying school supplies can enter Prime in the middle of a checkout built around urgency. Delivery dates, stock levels, a saved address, a saved card. Months later, the same person may notice the renewal while scanning a statement before bed. The original purchase has vanished from memory. What remains is a membership whose exit now asks for uninterrupted attention. That contrast is what gave Iliad its documentary force. The enrollment moment was embedded inside another goal. The cancellation moment became a goal of its own, with pages, alternatives, and repeated confirmations standing between the customer and completion. The FTC also alleged that customer service agents who could process cancellations were, under company policy, instructed to direct callers back into the online Iliad flow. That detail matters. The barrier was not a lack of technical capacity. The account could be cancelled. The system had chosen a route through which the customer was expected to pass. The FTC further alleged that Amazon leaders slowed or rejected changes that would have made cancellation simpler because those changes could hurt business performance. Amazon had already changed the Iliad process before the original complaint was filed. Then, in September 2025, Amazon entered a court-approved settlement. The order required $1 billion in civil penalties and $1.5 billion in consumer redress. It also required an easier way to cancel Prime using the same method through which the customer signed up, without a process that was difficult, costly, or time-consuming. A cancellation flow had become important enough to receive an internal name, to be discussed in relation to business performance, to draw a federal case, and to produce a court order defining how an exit should work. This was no longer a story about a poorly placed link. It was a story about what the company sees when the customer asks to leave. A pause is not only a pause. It may be a retained account. A discount is not only generosity. It may be a saved subscription. An abandoned flow is not only frustration. It may be another billing cycle. The opening customer is still in the kitchen. The laptop is closed now. The decision has not changed. The service still feels unnecessary. The price still feels wrong. Nothing new has been learned about the product. Only the cost of completing the exit has changed. This is the flaw beneath the whole system. The cancellation flow creates a temporary market around a decision the customer believed was already complete. Every extra minute creates space for another offer. Every warning revives a possible loss. Every question forces the customer to defend the choice. Every transfer creates another chance to stop. Every delay makes "not today" feel cheaper. The company is not merely placing distance between the customer and the exit. It is manufacturing time in which certainty can decay. Cancellation becomes a sales funnel running backwards. Instead of converting hesitation into a purchase, it converts certainty into hesitation. And once time becomes the retention tool, the real question is no longer whether the process is annoying. It is who can afford to keep resisting it. In New York, the SiriusXM cancellation system made that cost unusually visible. After receiving consumer complaints, the State Attorney General investigated the satellite radio company's cancellation practices.
The office said customers had been required to call or use online chat with an agent, even though the company could cancel an account with a simple action. The interaction followed a structure. According to the investigation, agents were trained to conduct a 6-part conversation. They could ask a series of questions and present as many as 5 retention offers. When a customer declined, the customer could continue. The customer says they want to cancel. The agent asks why. The customer gives a reason. That reason becomes the basis for an offer. Too expensive? Here is a lower price. Not using it? Here is a different plan. Selling the car? Perhaps the service can be transferred. The first refusal does not always end the exchange. It can trigger the next branch of the script. According to SiriusXM's own data, cited by the New York Attorney General, cancellation averaged 11.5 minutes by phone and 30 minutes online during the period investigated. Online chat waits could exceed 20 minutes. Some individual interactions lasted much longer. One consumer's chat log described about 40 minutes of repeated requests. Another complaint was written by someone trying to help a 92-year-old mother after a call that also lasted nearly 40 minutes. In November 2024, a New York court found that SiriusXM's procedure violated federal law because it was significantly more complicated than sign-up and required repeated retention offers. The ruling required simpler cancellation for New York customers without forcing them to speak or chat with a live agent. Now imagine the human being inside that call. A daughter has begun managing her father's household finances after his health declined. She has his account number written on an envelope, the radio identification number on a photograph, and a list of recurring charges beside her. She calls between a pharmacy pickup and an evening meal. The agent asks for verification. She finds the details. The agent asks why the service is being cancelled. She explains. An offer appears. She declines politely. Another offer appears. She knows the person speaking to her may be following a script and may be judged on the outcome. She does not want to be rude, so she listens, answers, waits, and says no again. The emotional burden is not simply patience. It is the obligation to perform certainty for another human being while carrying someone else's life administration. The individual agent is not the maze. The agent may be working inside targets, scripts, and software that determine what must be offered before the cancellation can proceed. That is what makes human-mediated friction so effective. A button can be dismissed. A person feels harder to dismiss. Politeness extends the encounter. Explanation creates material for persuasion. Silence feels awkward. Repetition feels confrontational. The customer must keep producing the same decision in a social setting that treats the decision as negotiable. The cancellation fee may never appear as money. It can be paid in waiting, attention, embarrassment, repetition, lost work time, and the feeling that one must earn the right to end a transaction. A single difficult cancellation can waste an evening, but subscription life is rarely organized around a single service. Software, news, fitness, entertainment, delivery, storage, security, education, dating, gaming, meal kits, membership programs. Each charge creates its own small administrative world with its own password, billing date, account structure, and exit ritual. The result is not one maze. It is a city of small mazes. On a Saturday morning, a woman opens the laptop of her late brother. She is trying to close accounts after his death. The inbox contains receipts, renewal notices, and trial confirmations. Some services recognize a family representative. Some require documents. Some provide no obvious route for someone who is not the account holder. Some keep sending automated messages addressed to him. Here, identity checks are necessary. Companies must protect accounts and data. But the human cost of poorly designed processes is magnified. Every demand for another form, another contact channel, another unexplained wait arrives inside grief. Friction does not land on empty space. It lands on whatever the person is already carrying. That is why identical steps can create unequal burdens. A 10-minute wait is not the same cost to someone on a paid break and someone with a flexible afternoon. A phone-only process is not the same obstacle to someone comfortable with confrontation and someone who finds live calls difficult. A maze of English language account labels is not equally navigable for every customer. Research on waiting in the United States has found that lower-income people are more likely to wait and to wait longer when accessing basic services. That work is not about subscriptions, but it exposes a broader truth. Time costs are distributed through social and economic conditions, not experienced equally. The Adobe freelancer returns to the cancellation screen months later. The lost client has not been replaced. The emergency savings are thinner. What once felt like an uncomfortable professional symbol has become a material expense. The person is no longer debating whether the software has value. It does. The question is whether that value can be afforded now, and whether the possible fee or complicated exit can be absorbed along with everything else. This is where a small administrative obstacle changes meaning. For someone with money, time, and confidence, it may remain an irritation. For someone with fewer reserves, it can become a month of continued billing. None of this means every unused subscription is the result of manipulation. People forget. Circumstances change. Some knowingly pay for convenience, optionality, or the chance that they will return. Some choose an annual plan because the price is lower and accept the contractual trade-off. The narrower claim is more important. When exit requires extra time and attention, temporary inattention can become revenue. Limited capacity can become renewal. A difficult week can become another month. The household at the dining table finds this out without any dramatic confrontation. They return to their list. One cancellation requires the App Store. Another requires a desktop browser. The gym wants an email. The local membership wants a call. The news service offers 3 discounted months. They still intend to cancel all 5. By Sunday night, 2 remain active. There is no single moment in which they chose to keep paying. There are only unfinished tasks. Behavioral researchers use terms such as friction, hassle costs, administrative burden, and sludge to describe the effort imposed between a person and an outcome. Field experiments in other settings have shown that small psychological and procedural barriers can meaningfully reduce follow-through, even when people have something to gain. A subscription exit is not identical to applying for a public benefit or completing a tax form. But the mechanism travels. People do not respond only to the value of the final outcome. They also respond to the immediate cost of reaching it. That cost can be designed. And when it is designed asymmetrically, access to the exit is quietly priced according to available time, confidence, and cognitive bandwidth. This is where the problem reaches the law. The legal principle sounds almost too simple to require a fight. If a person can join through a particular medium, they should be able to leave through a comparably simple medium. In October 2024, the United States Federal Trade Commission adopted an amended negative option rule widely known as click to cancel. The rule covered recurring arrangements in which a company treats silence or inaction as permission to keep charging. Among its requirements was an equal dignities principle. Cancellation had to be simple and at least as easy to use as the method through which the customer originally consented. The idea translated the entrance-exit comparison into law. Then, the rule itself entered a maze. Business groups challenged it. In July 2025, shortly before the main compliance requirements were due to take effect, the United States Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit vacated the amended rule. The court did not hold that easy cancellation was a bad objective. It held that the FTC had failed to conduct a preliminary regulatory analysis required after the estimated annual economic effect crossed a statutory threshold. The agency had produced a final analysis. The court concluded that the missing preliminary step required the rule to be set aside. The result was a legal paradox with almost cinematic precision. A rule designed to remove procedural friction from cancellation was defeated by a procedural failure in the rulemaking process. In March 2026, the FTC opened the issue again through an advance notice seeking public comment on modernizing the older negative option rule. The process had returned to an earlier stage: questions, evidence, alternatives, another record to build. Meanwhile, company-specific enforcement continued. The Amazon settlement turned the abstract principle into a concrete obligation. Prime cancellation had to be available through the same method used to sign up, and the route could not be difficult, costly, or time-consuming. That is what symmetry looks like when written into an enforceable order. But a company-specific order reaches one company. A nationwide rule attempts to set a floor across a market. The first can be precise. The second must survive procedure, evidence, legal authority, and challenge. Across the Atlantic, the United Kingdom was building its own subscription contract regime under the Digital Markets, Competition and Consumers Act. The government's April 2026 response said traders would have to make exit straightforward, allow online cancellation for subscriptions formed online, send clearer notices, and provide new cooling-off rights around certain renewals. But the regime still required secondary legislation, with commencement anticipated for spring 2027. At the same time, the Competition and Markets Authority opened an investigation into whether an early termination fee in some Adobe plans was unfair, and whether information about it had been presented misleadingly. As of July 2026, the case remained open, and no infringement finding had been made. The details differ across jurisdictions, but the institutional problem is the same. A law can require a cancellation route to exist. The harder question is how the route feels in practice. A company can remove one extra page and add a chatbot. Replace a phone requirement with a sequence of confirmation screens. Remove a hidden link but intensify the loss warning above it. Offer a visible button that leads into another process. Interface design changes faster than statutes, so simplicity cannot be measured only by whether a technical route exists. It must also be measured by the time, steps, channels, and resistance placed between the customer's instruction and the company's execution. The cancel button is a boundary. On one side is the company's legitimate opportunity to explain consequences, verify identity, and offer an alternative. On the other is the customer's authority to end the transaction. The difficult cases appear when persuasion is allowed to occupy the space where execution should already be happening. Before regulation catches every version of the maze, the useful defense is not heroic willpower. It is preserving the meaning of the decision. A discount can be genuinely good, but it answers a new question. Do I want to negotiate? It does not erase the answer to the first question. Do I want the subscription to continue? A pause may be useful. A downgrade may be sensible. The point is to see them as alternatives presented by a retention process, not as evidence that the original decision was mistaken. The customer can also decide in advance how much friction the task will receive before it moves to a documented support request, a payment platform, a regulator, or a scheduled block of time with evidence preserved. Screenshots matter. Confirmation numbers matter. The final email matters. Not because every company will dispute a cancellation, but because ambiguous completion is one of the maze's most expensive features. We return to the kitchen on Sunday night. The renewal is approaching again. The customer opens the same account page. The labels are unchanged. The pause offer still appears. The discounted month is still framed as savings. The chatbot still asks what it can do to help. But the customer is no longer treating each screen as a new referendum on the value of the service. The pause is recognized as a branch. The discount is recognized as a negotiation. The chatbot is recognized as a channel. The person takes screenshots, records the time, and continues. Nothing on the screen has changed. The meaning of the screen has. At the final page, the cancellation control is almost ordinary. A plain button beneath one last warning. After all the movement before it, the button itself is still. The customer presses it. The question was never only where the company placed the exit. It was what the company expected to happen to the customer before they reached it. The disappearing cancel button is a test of how long intention can survive friction. Joining is allowed to happen while the customer is excited. Leaving is delayed until the customer is tired. A person who gives up may not have changed their mind about the product. They may only have reached the point where continuing the payment costs less in that moment than continuing the argument. Cancellation friction is part of the price of a subscription, not an inconvenience outside it. This channel reveals the systems that turn ordinary choices into control.